Hi, I'm Kristy, founder of Quinn Foods, and welcome to the Be Better, Do Better podcast, where we showcase the folks fighting for change, questioning, seeking, learning, and doing things differently for the better, despite how actually freaking hard it might be sometimes. Today, I'm talking to Brooklyn-based entrepreneur, chef, and female powerhouse Ashley Rouse, the founder of Trade Street Jam Company. Trade Street is a minority and women-founded small batch jam company that was first started in Ashley's tiny apartment in North Carolina on Trade Street back in 2015. Ashley and Trade Street Jam embodies the Be Better, Do Better mission of doing things differently for the better by producing what they have coined not your average jams. They are locally sourced, 100% vegan, gluten-free, preservative-free, low in sugar, and can be used for cooking, baking, cocktails, and more. Tune into this episode to hear more about Ashley's journey as a female entrepreneur and how Trade Street has revolutionized the jam industry over the past 6 years. So I want to dive into, what inspired you to start Trade Street Jam? And before that, how are you feeling? Because you're pregnant with your second, right?
I am. I am just in the third trimester. I'm tired as all get out. So I don't even know how I'm doing things, but you know how we do, us women.
Yep, we just do it.
Yeah, but overall feeling pretty good, really excited. And inspiration wise, I think I just used to love preserving and canning things, and was doing that a lot back, kind of when I was in college, and back around maybe 2008 is when I kind of came up with the concept. And I was like, I love doing this. I love giving these jams away to friends and family. Like I would love to just make a jam company and call it Trade Street Jam. I lived in this tiny apartment on Trade Street in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I thought it was a cool name. And a friend of mine was just like, write it down, so you remember it. And then it wasn't until maybe we moved here to Brooklyn about 6 years ago, and I just was reinspired, reinvigorated by kind of the maker culture out here and the food scene, and needed something to do kind of after work in my free time. So started jamming again.
Oh, wow. Okay. So back way up, I mean, what were you doing 10 years ago, 5 years ago before all this? And I know a little bit about that, but our listeners don't.
Yeah. So 10 years ago, oh gosh, I'm like, what year is it? COVID is like screwed everything.
We're in like a time warp. I get it.
Seriously. So 10 years ago, I was living in Charlotte. I was working as a chef. I've only ever worked in the food service business. So I was working at like restaurants and hotels. So I was working as a chef right before we moved out here. And then I followed my now husband out to Stamford, Connecticut. And we lived there for maybe 2 years. And then I got a job in Manhattan and was kind of commuting back and forth to the city, and it kind of became a lot. So, moved a little bit closer to Brooklyn. And 5 years ago, I was working at the World Trade Center for Condé Nast, running a cafe in the building right next to like Bon Appetit Mag and GQ and Vogue, which was really, really super fun and just an exciting experience and one of the best jobs that I had. And I was helping run their cafe, running their marketing and their social, and doing some of the menuing as well. So that's what I was doing right before I decided to quit and take this full time.
Got it. So you're just always, your passions always lied in food and in that area.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think I always was like, hey, I'm going to, quit my job and do this jam thing. But I have kind of like always had a little bit of an entrepreneur spirit, and I think it kind of led me there. I was doing the jam for a couple years, and then I just remember getting to a point where I was like, man, how much further along would I be if I was doing this full time? But just didn't really think it was something that I could make work. And then, my husband was like my number one supporter and was like, let's do it. Like, we got this. And so actually like made it happen. So I think going on 4 years now, been doing this full time. Yeah, I think so.
Wow. And how old is your little girl again?
She's 16 months.
Yeah. So it's a lot when you start a business and then you have babies in between. So what was that, when you started, what was that kind of like leap of faith jump, if you will? I mean, what was the first thing that you did in order to get this company started?
I think one of the first things was just sit down with my husband and actually put numbers down on a piece of paper and understand financially what this was going to look like. I think that was one of the reasons why I was so terrified in the beginning, was just because, we live in Brooklyn, rent's like $3,000 a month. And it just, everything's so expensive. And I just really couldn't wrap my head around what this was going to look like. And once, he's a very much like, let's just simplify this problem. And we kind of put a spreadsheet together and just understood what our monthly expenses were and, the money that was coming in from the business. And we kind of got to a point where it was like, okay, if we empty out our savings accounts, if we empty out our like 401k, essentially you can go a year without working before you may need to either like go back to work or kind of figure something else out. Once I saw that, I was pumped. I was like, oh, a year. Like I'll be able to do something in a year, right? I probably thought I would be like, rolling in the dough in 1 year. Had no idea. But I just felt really confident in that. I was like, I have a year to do this, and it kind of just felt right. It was like, even if it doesn't work out, I have a whole year to like follow my passion and just kind of run with this. So yeah, that's really where the whole inspiration. After that, I was like, let's do it. I'm pretty sure I put in my notice just a few weeks after that.
That's crazy. So when were you making this clearly in your apartment, and then where were you selling it?
Yeah, I was definitely making it in my apartment for the first year. And then for the second year, we moved to like a shared kitchen that we were renting out. And so I would have like friends come and volunteer and help me make the product. I couldn't really afford any kind of like real labor at the time. So people would just like volunteer their time to help, which was really great. And then I started selling on like Facebook and Etsy, just like to people I knew. On Facebook, you have like all your friends and like your mom's friends and like people that know you. And so they're all like, oh yeah, we want to support you. So I was selling that way. And then I got an Etsy store. It's such a crafty site, like people go looking for like kind of handcrafted, handmade goods. So we were doing pretty well on there. And I think I did that for a couple years before we moved to like our own website.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's really kind of fascinating how many, craft makers, if you will, or artisans like sell their products on Etsy. And it's such an amazing platform, and it's really user friendly. So I can imagine that was kind of this, when Quinn started, we really didn't have that, right? Like, I don't know if you remember this company called Abe's Market, but it was kind of like the first Thrive market from like 10 years ago. But it was great because we used that platform to get out there because we weren't really anywhere, right? So you're trying to understand like if this is really going to sell or not. So I can imagine Etsy was a little bit like that for you guys of like, is this really going to work? Are people going to buy it? Because that's what, we were doing on Abe's of like, are people really going to buy this? Yes or no? And then when they do, you kind of breathe like a little bit of a sigh of relief.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely was that like bridge for us in between like Facebook, right? And our website, because Facebook is like everyone you know.
Yeah.
And so you're like, are they buying this because they're my friend? And then you get on Etsy and you start seeing some sales and you're like, oh, this is cool. Like we're building some sort of credibility. So that was cool. We were also selling a ton at in-person events and markets, like around New York City. So like craft fairs, farmers markets, situations like that. And that was really, really helpful for us because that's really how we kind of made a name for ourselves. And it was just a really great way to test the market. People were coming back week after week and you'd see some of the same people. So you'd get real time feedback. They were sampling the product. So they'd tell you right then and there if it was something that they would buy. We're a premium product. So it was a little bit pricier than, the Smuckers that they're probably used to paying like $3.99 for. And so, it was just really great to like test out flavors, test out pricing, test out packaging. I think those were some of the best years for us as far as just understanding, who our demographic was and who we are as a brand.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of flavors, and you're pretty different from other jams in the industry. I mean, your smoky peach is like by far my favorite. I'm dying to try that raspberry cranberry sage. I think that's what it's called. Yeah. I saw that. Yeah. But your product's really unique, and so can you explain like why it's so special and what that small batch process means to you? I mean, I read a little bit about your quick versus slow cooking, and it's kind of fascinating. But what makes you guys so unique, and what's the biggest point of differences in the category?
Yeah, I just wanted to make something that like stood out. I always thought if we were, put on a shelf next to Smucker's or Bon Maman, like why would someone buy our product? And I think, especially being like a higher price point, it was just like, what's going to draw them to us? And like, so first was packaging. I really wanted it to stand out. So that's kind of why you get like the bright, fun colors and the word bubble. Like I wanted it to catch someone's eye. Mm-hmm. And then I wanted the flavors to stand out. Like I never sought out to just make like a plain blueberry, plain strawberry jam, there's space for that. Right. But like, I've been a chef forever. Food is like all I know. And that's really where my creativity shines. And so like, I really just wanted to put that in the flavors. Like I wanted people to hear strawberry first and be like, oh yeah, I want that. But then hear these other, Chipotle fig and be like, wait a minute, now I really want it. And so, yeah, I think I just all about injecting just my culinary exploration and years of experience into each flavor and really get people excited about cooking, excited about eating, feeling a little bit adventurous, and excited about using the product on other things other than toast, other than just something for, I mean, it's great on toast, yep. It's great. I'm a bread fiend, but, just being more adventurous with it.
Yeah. And I realized that you started, and I don't know when you started this, I just heard about it and knew about it, but your cocktail elixirs, because when we first tried Trade Street, it seems like forever ago, but it was probably at the beginning of COVID or even before then. We made these hot toddies with, some of the jam, but now you have these elixirs, and I noticed you're going into kind of, I think it's sweet potato cornbread yep. or biscuits.
Yep. Biscuit mix.
Yeah. So I'm excited to try that, but that's pretty fun that you're kind of using that flavor profile and expanding outside of, jams. Is that what you intend to do, or what's the plan there? Where do you see yourself, I guess, in, 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I don't know. But sometimes I wish I had more answers than I do.
Take it minute by minute.
Yeah, definitely.
Just surviving.
And that's literally.
Yep.
But, we are positioning ourselves as more of a gourmet food company. So wanting to expand a little bit outside of jams. I'm really into condiments, so definitely want to kind of go into that space. We just launched like a raspberry hot sauce, which is so good and really getting some great traction. So like maybe fruit-based hot sauces, I could see us doing like some fruit-based mustards or something like that. I love like sauces. And then the mocktail elixir came about because, we have this sour cherry ginger jam and we get this really beautiful cherry juice, drained off from it. And we just have all this juice left over. And, being a chef, I was like, we can't waste this. It just makes sense to use it. It kind of fits with like the sustainability. Plus it's like financially good for the business, right? Mm-hmm. To use that product. So, I was like, what can we do with this? And just like mocktail elixir came in my head. I'm a big cocktail person, but like there's such a space for mocktails too. Like I feel like I've spent the past like 3 years pregnant. And so like I miss my drinks. Yep. So being able to have like, like I hate when someone's like, oh, you're not drinking? Like here's a soda. It's like, no, I want like something super
like
crafty
I want a cocktail,
and just as
but
good.
Not with the liquor.
Yeah. Like, and so this kind of gives you that crafty vibe, without the alcohol, and plus non-alcoholic spirits are like super trendy right now. And, for me, like being trendy is a part of me. It's a part of the business. Like I'm always dressing really trendy. I like
You're always 100% trendy. I like freaked out because I was like wearing my turtleneck and like my husband's oversized sweater. But I did put makeup on for you, by the way.
You look beautiful. You look. When you got on, I was like, you look gorgeous.
Oh, I was like, I'm breaking out this mascara that I haven't seen in like 2 years. But I'm talking to Ashley, so I need to like look put together.
Stop.
But you are always so trendy. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, I love the concept of like things changing, you know, like trends and things changing, and you kind of going along with that, still keeping your core focus, right? And the things that are important to your brand, but being able to kind of like get into it, I think is fun. And so, you know, it just fit with the mocktail, kind of trend and vibes that are going on right now. So we did that. And then we also do have a sweet potato biscuit mix. That's just kind of a side product that goes with the jam, you know, for our people who do love to bake and love a good like homemade biscuit. It's really great. So I see us, you know, I don't see us going too crazy and having, you know, 100 SKUs or something like that. But some fruit-based kind of situations around drinking and sauces and stuff like that, I think that fits our steez.
I love that, the fruit-based, because I mean, are there many hot sauces out there that's fruit-based? I mean, clearly outside of like tomatoes, but you know, I mean, like a peach hot sauce or something.
I mean, it exists. It definitely exists. But in doing just brief research on it, you know, I didn't see a ton. And I thought, you know, I didn't see any raspberry hot sauces. Definitely saw some peach, like habanero situations. But I just didn't see a ton. And I thought, you know, it could be really cool to do like a passion fruit hot sauce or a blackberry hot sauce. I mean, fruit's a good base for, you know, hot sauce is pepper, so it goes with fruit, and it kind of just all vibes together really nicely. So, yeah, I think coming from the jam, I think keeping things on like the fruity side, but then adding some spice and stuff like that. And plus our best selling jam is strawberry chipotle and fig, and it's got that sweet, but that spicy. And I think people kind of dig the sweet, the spicy, a little savory. They like the mix, you know, all in one. And so I think that could be really great for us.
That's awesome. I'm starving now. Thank you. I would like add that hot sauce to my oatmeal. I feel like, and it like goes with anything.
It really does. Like we have like a brownie hot sauce recipe where you like swirl it into the brownies on top, and it adds a little heat and fruitiness. I mean, you can do so much. And that's our whole mission, is just to introduce the world to a concept bigger than jam on toast. So we're like sharing all these recipes all the time on social and our website, just to get people like really into it.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of, well, two thoughts coming out of that. The history of jam, I kind of geeked out last night because I was like, I don't know anything about jam. My grandfather used to eat marmalade, you know, the orange marmalade, and I love that so much. But it's kind of fascinating because according to Wikipedia, and you probably know this, but like the history of jam kind of came out of the Greeks who used honey to preserve those like little orange, like I think they're called, I'm going to botch this name, so queens. What are those little things called? They're like,
the quince.
Yes, thank you. And then in the 16th century, you know, cane sugar was introduced, and then we started to preserve it as the fruit from the cane sugar. But just curious, like, what is really the difference between jam, jellies, marmalade? Can you explain that a little bit? Because I find that kind of so fascinating. And it's such like an old school kind of nostalgic classic, if you will, and you're pushing it really far, and I think that's so awesome. Not to mention you're 7 or 5 grams of sugar, right, per serving, where others are like 15 plus. So I think that's a huge thing for me, at least, with like 3 little kiddos. But yeah, I would love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. Our highest sugar content is 7 grams, which is our cranberry raspberry sage. And that's kind of to balance out the tartness that you get with the cranberries and the raspberries. But the other flavors are about 3 to 5. And so we just like really want to keep it low. I think that's our number one like differentiating factor, is just that, you know, everyone thinks jelly is like so bad, which typically it is, right? Traditionally, it's really not good for you, and it has a bunch of kind of crap in it, ingredients you can't pronounce and stuff like that. So we just wanted to like wire people's minds and just show them like you can still have jam. And I think that's been a really helpful thing. We have a lot of customers who are like, hey, I'm diabetic, or I have this, and they're like, being able to eat jam again is really, really exciting. So, and like you said, for kids, like when you buy something in your household, especially if it's like a pricier item, like you want everyone to be able to eat it if they want to. You don't want to be like, well, this isn't for you. Like I'll give it to my baby. Like she'll have a spoonful and she loves it. And I like feel good about it. So that's really important. But really just the difference, like, so for jams and preserves, it's typically pieces of fruit that are going to be in there. So you're going to get like a lot of full berry pieces and chunks in there. With jelly, that's typically strained out. And so you're just getting more of like a clear product. So most like jelly, grape jelly, strawberry jelly, it'll just be like this kind of gelatinized, like clear situation. And that typically has pectin in it too, which is like a thickening agent. So that's kind of the difference between like jams, jelly, and preserves. Marmalades are going to have fruit and that gelatinous kind of texture to it, but marmalades have a ton of sugar in them. And that's typically how you get it to set. And that's how you get like the fruit suspended throughout. So we are still trying to formulate like a good marmalade recipe without the sugar. But I've made it for years and it's just that's literally the majority of it is sugar so that you can get all that fruit suspended throughout. And so, I'm still trying to figure out how to do that because I definitely love a good orange marmalade.
I'm like 100%. When can you, your biggest customer?
Yeah,
over
we
here.
did. We used to have a Meyer lemon champagne marmalade early on, and it was just like a labor of love because it was so tough to make, but it didn't really fit the sugar content that we were using for the other ones. Still figuring that piece out, but that's pretty much the difference between all of those. And like for us, we don't use pectin. We don't use any thickening agents. Our texture is very different. We're not using ingredients you can't pronounce. Like it's just so clean. It's literally fruit, spices, and a tiny, tiny bit of sugar added.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like phenomenal product. Like I can just eat, like get out of the jar, which is problematic. But where are you guys sourcing some of your ingredients, like fruit? I mean, I can imagine that's pretty daunting.
Yeah, right now it's such a challenge, like with all the supply chain issues and COVID and everything. Side note, I'm curious if you guys are even seeing some of these like supply chain issues, but everything's so hard to come by right now. But we usually get a lot of fruit locally. So there's a ton of like local farms. We use like a purveyor out here that has like access to a ton of farms. So we usually get it as locally as possible. Anytime I can support like local farmers and things like that, I think is really helpful. Obviously, there's some fruit that we can't get locally, kiwis and, certain things, but we get most of it from, upstate New York, Pennsylvania, areas around here.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. And yes, I mean, supply chain challenges have been all over the place. I mean, from ingredients, but also the labor shortages have been pretty much a nightmare.
Yep.
And so that's causing delays and backups and pretty much everything. And honestly, I don't really know if it's I'm hopeful, but I'm also bracing for like, okay, this is what it is. We just need to factor this in, right? Factor it into pretty much like all of our lead times and timelines internally. We were talking to someone yesterday and they were like, oh, it's 16 weeks out. I was like, excuse me?
Yeah, I know. I'm ordering like these custom boxes like for wholesale and they're like 8-week lead time. I'm like, I don't understand. That's 2 months. Yeah, like I need them before 2 months. Like I need them to come sooner. So, I mean, even like we use black lids on all of our products and we've literally just had to switch to these like white kind of colored lids. And we may have to go to gold. And I'm like freaking out because I'm just like, just no.
Yeah.
But, when I first heard about this like months ago, I think my husband was like, oh, you go to white lids. And I was like, absolutely not. And now I'm like, you have gold lids? Send them now. And so, we're like, just one of the important things I'm doing is, and I've been doing this, is just like we over communicate to our customers. Like we send out newsletters. I do like letters from the owner, and let them know what's going on with me as an owner of the business. We share a lot on social and just trying to get people to understand, because I think sometimes your customers can be really far removed from the actual workings of the business. You know, they don't really, I think last year we had a lot of issues like during the holidays, and people were like, I don't understand why I don't have my package. And it's been 2 weeks. Like, I got mine from Amazon yesterday. And we were like, wow, the fact that you're comparing us to Amazon really shows how far removed you are from the size of our business and what we're capable of. And I think at the time I was still fulfilling, out of our like downstairs apartment, fulfilling packages. So it's just, it's wild. But so just trying to communicate to everyone like, hey, these lids are going to look a little bit different. But it's still the same great jam that you have grown to love. Nothing else has changed. Because I can totally see people, you know, just being like, I don't want this.
Yeah.
The lid's white. Yeah. It's different. It tastes it, you know?
It's so true.
And just trying to like get them on the same page.
It's hard. I mean, it's challenging because as much as I can't stand like, you know, the conglomerate that Amazon is, it does kind of, I mean, clearly it helps, right? Like, so if you're running out of masks or toilet paper or whatever it is, right? It's an overnight solve, especially for, you know, right now, I mean, we could talk about women all day long, but we're working mothers and we're trying to balance everything, and it's impossible to find time for anything. So sometimes you have to make that choice. But it is like that instant gratification. So Amazon has trained pretty much society around instant gratification. So, you know, like your customer is saying, well, where is my product? It's been 2 weeks. You're like, well, let's back up. Like, you know, 10 years ago, you were happily going to wait for your product for 2 weeks. But now you want it immediately. You want it in 24 hours and 48 hours. And it is, again, it's like that instant gratification. And we're seeing that across the board, you know, with some of our customers. But then also, you know, as our kids get a little bit older, they're like, well, why didn't it come yet? Why did my crayons not come? I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, totally.
You have like 1,000 crayons downstairs. Like, go, like, melt them and
like, go figure it
put them into a ball like that I used to do when I was little, and like go use them. Yeah, I know.
I mean, the way my baby is with technology, and like she has to have a phone or an iPad. She's 1.
Yeah.
And like, if you hide it, she's like, cool, she's playing with toys. But if she sees you send a text message or FaceTime someone,
she wants it.
The world, she will like throw a tantrum. You're like, who are you? Like, you're like the sweetest baby ever. Who are you right now? But like and
it's
when she
addiction.
gets it, she's got her fingers, she's swiping.
Yeah.
I mean, she's 1, and like if you see her, you're like, that baby's on the phone. Yeah. That baby is like sending an email right now. And
it's like your personal assistant.
She is. She looks like it. She's just like swiping, and then she goes to YouTube and watches a video, and then when she's tired, she swipes to another app, and then she like plays a game for a second, and then she goes back to YouTube, and I'm just like, and she hits the home button when she's frustrated and like goes back to the and I'm just looking, and I'm like, my God, to your point, like she's gonna be 3 like placing orders on Amazon.
Yep.
Like, you know, like I need a new toy.
Yeah.
Like exactly. You said I could order when I need like,
no, I know.
Like, please.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And it's like it's instead of waiting for your birthday or for the holiday to come around, it's like, you know, I can have this now. And it drives me nuts, but I'm like, well, I do need toilet paper now. So,
we order off there almost every day, and it's getting to a point where it's like, why are you placing an order every day?
Yes.
Like, do you need these things? Like, can you wait a bit? And it's too convenient. But to your point, it trains people. And then when you can't have that, I'm not quite there. You know, I still order stuff from other sites. Like, you know, I'm obsessed with this site that has these cute onesies with different sayings and stuff. And for my baby and now my new baby, I'm like, it's called the Spunky Stork.
Oh, that's cute.
It's so cute. Like I usually order her like every Thanksgiving something that has like a sweet potato pie on it and says I'm sweet, or some little Thanksgiving, you know, like something. I usually order like themed stuff for her around like the holidays or Halloween or Christmas. But they just have the most adorable t-shirts and onesies and stuff. And I love them. But like, I understand that like, I'm not ordering this on Amazon. It might take a week and a half to get here. Like, I don't even think about it. I'm like, I love this onesie. I'm going to get it. And then I don't think about it. And then a week later, it's here. But not everyone's like that. And I definitely see people saying like, you know, it's been 3 days. And it's like, oh gosh, I just have to keep communicating that we're a small business. We don't have the capabilities that you think. We don't have drivers. We don't have all these, you know, we have one warehouse, not 150, you know, just like trying to, Jeff Bezos just went to space.
Yeah,
Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no, don't.
Yeah, you can't. Don't. And I think that's the hardest thing is that consumers do compare now, right? Because they can get it. Also the variety, the availability. So it's causing some challenges. I mean, there's pros and cons, right, to every situation, but it's pretty difficult. So what are your biggest challenges right now? I mean, in COVID, out of COVID, what are your biggest needs from a business perspective as you continue to grow?
Gosh, everything. Biggest needs. Well, we're in the middle of a capital raise that we're almost finished with.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting. It's a small seed round. We're doing like 600K. And we're over halfway there. So that's really cool. I think we're going to do just like a friends and family to kind of finish it out, hopefully before the year's over. But so capital's been a big one, especially with the holidays, just trying to like bulk up. But even moving into next year, you know, like we're a growing business. We're trying to do things better, more efficiently. And, you know, we're looking to produce product on a quarterly basis, whereas now we're producing twice a month. And so you need money, right? Like to be able to make all that product. Yeah, I've never done that before. In the past, you know, we were producing twice a month because I need to produce a little, sell a little bit of that, then produce a little bit more, then sell a little bit of that first production. You know, it's like you're kind of like doing like in this like, I don't know, hamster wheel. And so being able to do all that at once is a big deal. I think capital is huge. And then just hiring. We're slowly building a staff. I may have maybe 6 people now. Still all like contractors and like part-time. So nobody's like full-time really, except for myself. But it's still huge, you know, like we're still so small and I still do so much. So hiring is just a really big piece of it. And I think like it's a scary piece for a small business, right? When you're spending money, sometimes you're like paying someone a salary more than you make. And you're just like,
oh, always.
Does this make sense? Yeah. Like you're like, I don't understand. I'm like paying a CFO or like, so, I don't know, you know, and you're just like, this person's making like $100,000 and you're like, hi. Yeah. I don't, but like, but I need you to help me like run this. Yeah.
No, you do need to, it's funny because it's like that desperate need, because you're only one person. And I'm sure you've gone through this, but like if you could clone yourself essentially is how you build and grow the business. But if you're trying to do everything by yourself, you're not going to be able to build and grow the business. And that person that you pay is so worth it, because then they, you know, clearly will help you there. And over time you will. It's just a matter of, you know, growing and scaling, and then, you know, getting your round complete. And, you know, I think the scariest thing is like for like 8 years, we could hardly pay our mortgage. And, there were times where we'd have to, you know, this one time we had to, you'll appreciate this because this goes back to like ordering a lot of product. We knew we were running out of money and we had to spend all of it to order the product so we could have product to sell. Right. But then once you submit that, you're out. But at least you have product to sell. So it is balancing that is really scary, but you kind of have to believe that it will work out in the end. Because if you don't, you can go down like a rabbit hole of dark depths, scaring the shit out of yourself.
For sure. No, yeah, scaring yourself. Like, I mean, like sometimes you just have to say like, okay, like, you know, your business is how old? 10 years?
Yeah, we'd 11. So Quinn just turned 11. So the baby Quinn and Quinn.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
No, congratulations.
We're still here.
I know. And that was my point, is that I think in February we turned 6. And so like, you just have to be like, well, you did it 6 years of this. Like, it's not for nothing. It's not because you just were lucky. It's because you like worked hard and you have a good product. You're doing something right. You may be doing many things wrong, but something you're doing right. And even like, you know, we're much smaller than you guys, but like on a smaller scale, it's like, I can pay the rent. I can pay my portion of the bills. Like I can help support this family. That's huge. Like, you know, there was definitely a time just a few years ago when I was like, I'm going to go a year without making any money and hopefully my husband can cover it, you know? And now it's like, okay, I can pay the bills and like, we're going to buy a house in the next few months probably. And, so like, you know, we're doing it over here this way and you guys are definitely doing it. But, yeah, it just takes time. And I think it's important to share that and let people hear that because I know so many entrepreneurs, probably every entrepreneur in the world is just like so terrified, so daunted about even starting the journey. And then they can be 5, 10 years into it and they're like, I don't know what's next. I don't know how we're doing this. They don't know if they're doing it the right way. They raise capital too soon. They haven't raised capital yet, you know, like all these different things. So, no, this is hopefully inspiration to someone that like, especially for a woman. Women are so strong. Oh my! It's like a woman business owner. I'm like, oh, you got this. Totally. You can give birth.
100.
Like you got this.
I know, 100%. It is kind of amazing when you speak to women, and I've spoken to some who are just starting and who are having their kiddo like, you know, in 2 weeks. And I'm like, you're going to be fine because it does take that special type of mentality to just like push through and do it. I mean, we really find the strength in anything and everywhere, and we don't doubt. And I think that's the biggest thing is like not to doubt. And I love what you just said, because I think there's some stat, and I should know this, around, you know, the first year businesses, like 99% of small businesses like fail in the first year or something. So the fact that, again, you're here, right? Like you survived, you pushed through, you're growing, you're buying a house, you're having another baby. Like it is kind of amazing the accomplishments that you've really done over the last 6 years. And then I was listening to how I built this yesterday. I feel like, what was I doing yesterday? I don't know what I was doing, but I was listening to it probably half because I'm working and listening to it, which doesn't work. But it was the founder of Don Katz, who's the founder of Audible. And anyway, a side note to that, it's not really about Don, but it's about so many entrepreneurs start businesses that completely fail. But then another business kind of comes out of that, and that one, you know, works. And so it's just a constant reminder, like, to know that, you know, in your biggest challenges and when you think everything's failing, that it might fail. And that's okay. Like, right. You won't know until you try. And if it fails, then there's going to be another opportunity beyond that. And you've learned so much from the previous one. So I've always thought that, you know, if this does end up failing, which, knock on wood, hopefully it doesn't, there's so much to learn from here. And so many founders and entrepreneurs, very successful ones, started and completely failed.
You're so funny. 11 years in, and you're like, I hope this doesn't fail. I'm not going to, like, this is the life of an entrepreneur. 11 years, you're going to be like 15. You're going to be on the verge of like selling your company for, you know, hundreds of millions. And you're going to be like, are you sure? Because are you sure you want to buy this company? Are you looking at the right one?
So funny.
But no, I think it's true. And I'm just a big proponent of like, what's for you won't miss you. So, you know, if it's going to fail, you know, like I spend a lot of time focusing on my family. Like people are always like, how do you get through? And like, how do you stay like mentally, keep it together? And it's like, because the business is very, very important, but my family's so much more important. So I spend a lot of time like just playing with my baby. Like that is like my life, my heart, and like my husband, like just spending time doing things that feel really good, which is my family, and growing my family. And so, because I always say, like, if something happened to Trade Street and it, you know, fell apart, like it would be really upsetting, but that's what matters. Like that would still be here, you know? So I think that just like sometimes stepping away, I think I did a panel yesterday and they were like, how do you know, deal when you have like a really tough time? And I was like, not dealing, it's like stepping away from it and getting a clear mind and, you know, understanding that it's not everything in the world. Sometimes it feels like everything, especially when you're just so swamped and it just feels like the weight of the world. Just being able to like step away and take a breather and kind of recenter yourself. But whatever's for you is not going to miss you. So if, you know, if your business isn't going to make it, there's nothing you can do. That's what the universe has for you. But
surrender
you're
to
going
that
to survive.
Yeah.
Like you'll be fine. Yeah. You really will.
That's an awesome attitude. That took me a long time to get there, by the way.
Me too.
Definitely years of getting there. So that's pretty impressive. Question before we wrap up, but I noticed that are you still teaching jam classes to kids in underprivileged schools and districts? And how did you get into this? And then how can we learn more about it so we can support it?
So I got into it. It was kind of just like an initiative that I like thought of, and I was like, I would love to do this. And I actually met Marcus Samuelson a while back. He's like a pretty famous like chef.
I know him.
He lives here in New York.
That's so funny. Yeah. I met him like when we started. Do you remember Daily Candy? Like,
yes.
So
yes,
we were, I guess, winners of the Daily Candy. I can't remember what it was for, but
it's throwback.
But we went to his restaurant and it was awesome, and he was so cool. He asked some really good questions, but such an awesome person. But I haven't seen him in 9 years. It's been that long, but super cool.
He's really sweet, really nice person. We did like a show on Vice called Hustle, and he was like one of the executive producers, and so we like met him and chatted him up a bit. And he has a program called CCAP, which is Careers Through Culinary Arts programs, and it's just like culinary schools, teaching kids at lower income schools. And I just think that's really cool. I really wanted to be able to give back. I feel like if I'm not doing some kind of give back or community service through the business, it just like doesn't make sense. And so wanted to do that. So I reached out to him, and then was able to like teach some classes to actually some teachers, which was fun. And then to some students. But I mean, COVID has totally thrown everything off. I haven't done that in a while now. But I was just talking about that this morning, actually, with someone else. I really want to get back into doing that. I also have this idea that I've had for years now, where I would love to get a ton of volunteers together and make like PB&Js with like leftover bread, peanut butter, jam from like local companies that want to donate this product, and I just like see hundreds of people just making PB&Js, and then I want to like walk them around Manhattan and hand them out to the less fortunate and to homeless, like just hand them out, because like I don't really want to just donate them to a city harvest or something. I want to like actually hand them to people. I just feel like it's so powerful. It feels so good to give back, right? Everyone feels good after they like volunteer, give back, but it's always like a once a year, maybe once every few years thing that people do. So I want to do more of that. I think as COVID slows down and going into next year, I mean, I'm pregnant now too. So like, obviously we have to be so safe about even being vaccinated. You just have to be so safe of like what you're doing and who you're around. But going into next year, I definitely think we'll put more efforts into some of these community service things like that. And yeah, if anybody's listening and has connections at City Harvest, knows companies that want to donate product, I would love to just connect with them and get that information. So when we're ready, we have the right contacts on our side.
That's awesome. I'm already like going a million miles an hour in my brain for some companies who you could reach out to. And then that would be kind of a cool city thing too. You could start in New York and then move to Denver, Chicago, and elsewhere.
I love that.
I love that. So let's talk offline, because I think that's something that's it really resonates with me, especially here in Denver.
Totally.
Super cool. Okay. Blast questions. So these are meant to, you don't have to think about them. Just spit it out as they come to your mind. But what motivates you during this journey?
My baby.
What keeps you up at night?
This business.
What keeps you sane?
My husband.
Your greatest lesson?
Just keep pushing, keep doing it. Women, we got it. So just keep on going.
2 books you are reading or you have read that you'd like to, recommend to our listeners?
Oh, gosh. It's probably more of like a podcast situation. I think How I Built This is really, really great. Yeah, it's really motivational. And then probably something like a Joel Osteen or something like that. Something that's like motivational, spiritual. Yeah, those are great.
Awesome. That was my next question. 2 podcasts.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
oh.
You're good.
Yeah.
You answered it. Any new music that you're really excited about that you listen to?
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about Adele's album, which comes out, I believe, next week. Adele's fantastic, so I'm excited about that. I'm a big, I like rap, I like R&B. Yeah, I actually really like jazz too. That's what I can listen to while I work. I can't listen to rap while I work. I try to. I love listening to Drake, and I'm but it's I'm not really listening. It gets you
really angst up.
It's I'm too turned up. I'm too turned up. These emails, I'm upset. I don't know. It's too much. But I love some jazz, or Spotify has these really cool playlists. If you type in mellow bars or mellow beats, it's kind of gives you this R&B rap kind of beat, but mixed with jazz, and it's just really mellow and chill, kind of like hotel music or something. But I like it. It's
I'll try that. That's good. I'm listening Spotify right now on stress-free list.
Oh yeah, try mellow beats. I think you'd like it.
Okay, cool. And then last question, do you have a favorite quote that you kind of live by?
Favorite quote? Oh gosh, that's hard. There's so many things that come to mind, but I just saw this meme on Instagram that I really, really liked. It said, honoring the distances I've traveled to meet myself. I thought that was really cool. Because I'm different now than I was just a year ago, before COVID, before I had a baby, before I was married, before I had a business. I'm just so much more different now, but so much better, so much more mature, so much more refined, so much calmer. So just kind of honoring those distances I traveled to get here. Like you just said, you're it took me years to get to that place. I'm the same. It's taking a long time to get to sometimes a place of calmness where things don't work you up, and where you just put things into perspective. And so, just honoring those distances I've traveled.
Thank you, Ashley. I love that. I just got the chills. That's it's a good one.
Good.
Thank you so much for joining our Be Better, Do Better podcast. And hopefully we'll have you on after your baby. You can tell us what's going on as a follow-up.
I'd love that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Be Better, Do Better podcast. And a huge shout out to Ashley for taking the time out of her busy schedule to chat about all things jam, mom, entrepreneur life, and all the struggles that come with running a small business. Hope you all enjoyed.